A very common question among dividend investors is how to build a great dividend growth portfolio. So in this video, we're going to be going over exactly that. I'm going to give you 2 ETFs that you can buy in conjunction to make a great dividend growth portfolio. I'm going to tell you a little about these ETFs, their top 10 holdings, their current dividend yield, and their projected dividend growth. And using this video, I hope you can use this as some information to help you develop a great dividend growth portfolio that is very simple. So the first ETF is VIG, the Vanguard Dividend Appreciation ETF, and this is actually the most popular dividend ETF based on assets under management. The objective of this ETF is to track the performance of the S&P US Dividend Growers Index. And this index has a great investment methodology. It seeks to track U.S. companies that have followed a policy of consistently increasing dividends every year for at least 10 consecutive years. The index then excludes the top 25% of highest yielding eligible companies from that index. So you're really not going to find companies that yield over 4% in this index. You're going to find lower yielding companies that do have a history of increasing their dividends over time. And over the past 10 years, this index has had a great 10-year return on average, 12.44% annualized, and this is with those dividends reinvested. So it definitely performs well over time. Now, VIG does have great diversification in itself. It has a total number of companies that it holds of 337, and you're going to find some great diversification along the way with not only the number of companies, but the industries as well. No, I'm not going to go too much over the industry diversification. If you want, you can pause the video and take a look yourself, but the number 1 industry is information technology. The number 2 is going to be financials, and the number 3 is going to be industrials. So you do have some of the growth that information technology offers, but you do also have some of the great dividend companies that some other industries offer as well. The top 10 holdings here are all great developed companies and are all well known. Apple, Broadcom, Microsoft, JP Morgan Chase, United Health Group, ExxonMobil, Visa, Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson, and MasterCard. So you have great industry diversification among the top 10 and all great quality companies overall. And the current dividend yield of this ETF is 1.69%, which may seem relatively low, but you have to remember the intent of this ETF is not to provide current high dividend yield, it's to grow dividends over time. And grow dividends over time, this ETF did a great job at doing. This ETF also pays quarterly, so every 3 months you are to expect a dividend payment. And if you go back in time, you can see that dividend grow. And certainly grow those dividends did because you have an average 5-year dividend growth rate of 10.11%. which really goes to show that this dividend ETF does do what it says it's going to do, and that is to grow your dividends over time. And for the past 10 years, it has grown those dividends consecutively. I'm going to jump right into the second dividend ETF to combine to make a great dividend growth portfolio, and that is SCHD, the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF. The intent of this ETF is to track the total return of the Dow Jones US Dividend 100 Index. So the methodology of this ETF is to measure the performance of high dividend yielding stocks in the US with a record of consistently paying dividends, selected for their fundamental strength relative to their peers based on financial ratios. So like VIG, it does definitely invest into stocks that have a history of increasing their dividends over time, but it also includes high yielding dividend stocks in that list. And then it runs that list through financial ratios to pick the best of the best dividend stocks. And over the past 10 years, this index has returned 11.82% annualized on average. So also great growth there, although not as much as VIG, but you have to remember this ETF focuses on more high yielding companies and doesn't really necessarily include those growth companies in there. And you'll see that when we get to the top 10. Let's focus on the industry first a bit. If you notice, information technology is much lower on this list than VIG. There's not as much focus on those growth stocks that are related to information technology. The top 3 are financials, healthcare, consumer staples. So those are all huge dividend paying industries, and you would expect that with those high yielding stocks to be based in those industries that this ETF selects based on that investment methodology. However, if you notice the top 10, you'll also see some great quality companies that I'm sure all of you know well of. So you have Home Depot, Verizon, BlackRock, Cisco Systems, Chevron, Bristol-Myers Squibb, Pfizer Inc., Lockheed Martin, Texas Instruments, and AbbVie. So again, great industry diversification among that list. Now, unlike VIG, this ETF has a much narrower selection of stocks. You're only going to find about 100 companies in this ETF, unlike VIG, which has more than 300. So VIG has a bit more diversification, but SCHD focuses on more quality with those fundamental ratios and also higher yielding stocks. And part of the reason why I selected these two ETFs in conjunction is that there's very little overlap overall between these two ETFs. If you just take a look at this top 10 from SCHD and then take a look at the top 10 from VIG, you'll see basically no overlap in the top 10. And this is great because it adds further diversification to your dividend growth portfolio. So this really knocks it out of the park when it comes to a combination, because you have the growth of VIG and also the diversification that these ETFs bring together. And then you also have the higher dividend yield of SCHD. So these are a great combination for dividend growth and also for a little bit of dividend yield as well. Now, about this great dividend itself, the current dividend yield of SCHD is 3.57%. So it's about double that of VIG. But remember, this ETF includes those high yielding stocks, so you would definitely expect that. This ETF also pays quarterly, so expect a dividend payment every 3 months. And regarding the dividend growth, if we scroll down here, you will see great dividend growth over time. And as far as the dividend growth rate goes, this ETF has had a 5-year dividend growth rate of 12%, which even beats out VIG. So this ETF is even better when it comes to dividend growth than VIG. And it's had a dividend growth of 12 years. So also great consistency there. It just goes to show you that these ETFs definitely do their objective, which is growing these dividends over time. And I'm just not making this video to tell you about these ETFs. I'm also doing this strategy myself. And I'm telling you this because I also believe in these two dividend ETFs. I own VIG and SCHD in my portfolio. I have about $40,000 in VIG and about $20,000 currently in SCHD. So I definitely believe the power of these two dividend ETFs, and their combined dividend growth over the past 5 years is over 10% annually. Offers great diversification, good yield in combo, and overall great diversification. So I'm going to end it there. Please do remember, if you do appreciate this content, leave this video a like to get this content out there to a wider audience. And also subscribe if you want to keep up to date on future content. It would be greatly appreciated, and I'll see you all in the next video.